Hello there, it's Ariel. Kiley. I am continuing on my financial freedom journey, and I wanted to bring you today a sort of special June mid-month check-in, because if you've been following along on my journey, I have a goal of paying off a total of about $36,000 in 14 months. I started in November of 2017, and I intend to finish January 2019. Now, the bulk of that was a bit over $25,000 in student loan debt. The last $11,000 is a personal debt to a friend. So my first goal was to get through that student loan debt, which is the much bigger, burning, painful bit of the debt for me, and the part that's really felt like it's been weighing me down. And I wound up knocking that out in 8 months, which was faster than I thought I would be able to, as a yoga meditation teacher here in New York City and trauma resolution specialist. So my income it fluctuates like crazy, and it's taken a lot of focus, change of behaviors, and change in attitudes to be able to overcome this debt that I've been dragging around for a really long time. So what I wanted to do was share my top 33 tips for how I did this, because when I started out on my debt-free journey last November, I just scoured the internet looking for really specific and personal feeling advice from people on how they pulled it off. And the little tidbits I got that were really specific inspired and helped me a whole lot. So I want to give those to you if you feel stuck, and hopefully one of these 33 tips might resonate for you and help move you forward a little bit more. Okay. There's a little bit of like saw sounds on the roof. I'm here in Dumbo in Brooklyn, and I think my building super or maintenance might be doing some roofy things, so you might hear that. Tip number 1 was I got mad. So I've been going along like, a kind of typical American, carrying this burden of my debt, and just assuming I'd be carrying it for a long time. And I think the first time I got really mad was when I was doing my taxes and I realized how much interest I was paying in student loan debt, in particular for this one loan for Vermont Student Assistance Corporation. I'm from Vermont, and this business always seemed so user-friendly. Like, it made me think of like Ben and Jerry's, like sweet, Vermonty, we're here to help you. And then when I looked at the reality of how much interest they were charging me over the years, it was about 6.9%, and saw the money and what a small dent I had put in my debt, I started to get really mad, because I felt like how they presented themselves was deceptive. Like, if you're going to be a money grubbing, like debt earning loan company, just be honest about it. Don't try and masquerade as something else. So I got mad. And when I got mad, I stopped wanting to pay just small minimum payments, and I wanted to destroy that thing. I wanted to annihilate. I had violent thoughts. I wanted to annihilate that debt. So number 1 was I got mad. Number 2 tip is I decided to. So there is this great quote by William Hutchinson Murray. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness concerning all acts of initiative and creation. There is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. The moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. Decide, commit, don't look back. Stay true to your word. So I decided I'm doing this. The third thing I did, number 3, I cut down all excess spending. So I am mostly doing the Dave Ramsey Baby Steps program, which means you line up your debt smallest to largest and pay minimum payments on everything and knock out the smallest one to really get your momentum going, and that keeps going to the next one and the next one. I was also really inspired by Mr. Money Mustache. And I actually read all his blog posts a couple of years ago, and he frames being really frugal as badassity. He retired at 30. And so I was really inspired by reading his blog and thinking in terms of cutting excess spending, not as deprivation, but as like badassity. So I stopped taking cabs. I focused on biking, walking, subway riding, bus riding in New York City. I reduced subscriptions. I reduced my phone bill. I looked for all those little expenses that I hadn't been thinking about that had been adding up, and I reduced all of them because this journey is really about many little things adding up as opposed to one big thing saving the day. Number 4, I questioned every expense. So coming on the tail of cutting down all excess spending, I questioned every expense, which means, for instance, I am very fair, obviously. It's a good idea for me to wear sunblock. However, when I go to buy sunblock, I like to buy like La Roche-Posay, really expensive. It's usually between like $30 and $45 facial sunblock. This is not going to help me get out of debt faster. So as it turned out, I had sunblock under my bed that was free, that someone gave me in a gift bag. Instead of staying attached to what I'm used to buying, I questioned every expense and decided I can do with this cheaper sunblock for now. And that means every expense. Like, are these artichokes worth the price? Does it make sense for me to buy raw almonds or this many? Maybe I should buy less slivered almonds instead. I questioned all expenses. So the next one is I created a zero-based written budget and stuck to it. A zero-based budget is when you see at the beginning of the month. So in the beginning of the month, I'd add up all the money I had in savings, in my checking accounts, in my Venmo account. I'd add it all up. I would reserve a few $100s, about $1,000, like Dave Ramsey suggests, for emergencies. But then all the extra money, I would make a very clear written budget for. I use both paper and I use the Every Dollar app, which is the Dave Ramsey program app, and gave every dollar a name. So planned where what all my expenses were, how I would pay for them, and then the extra money, which was anywhere from, I think the first month the extra money was $688. That was month 1. Month 8, my extra money was $5,073. So you can see the momentum really got going. All that extra money is the money I put towards debt. And by planning out every single dollar, it made it really clear where I wanted my money to go. It made me be able to really clearly reflect where it actually went and find the exact dollar amount I could put into my loans. Next, 6. And I'm really passionate about this one. 6 is 6 for the visual learners. I listen to all different experts. So we human beings can be so dang judgy, right? We say, I like this person because I like their hairstyle, or I don't like this person because of their ethnicity, or I like this person because of where they came from, or I don't like this person because of where they came from. Or their religious beliefs, of course, is a huge thing. I didn't mess around with any of that. So like Mr. Money Mustache and Dave Ramsey both have amazing perspectives on financial freedom. They have very opposing views about ultimately what they want to do with their extra money. I don't care what they want to do with their extra money. I don't care what God they worship or don't worship. I don't care what kind of facial or head hair they have, what gender they are. They obviously have something to share, or else they wouldn't be called to these big platforms to help people with financial freedom. And I am interested in learning from them whatever I can. And I think actually judging and being critical of different advisors and teachers is a way that we avoid taking responsibility for ourselves. Like if we can reject someone for their accent, then we don't have to take responsibility for the message they're offering us. So number 6 is I listen to all different experts. Number 7, I use the cash envelope system. So there are some expenses that I didn't need to tally up and have a record for, like for my business, for my yoga teaching business. For those expenses, what I did was made little bundles of cash that I put in my wallet. Typically, people use an envelope. I didn't use an envelope. I just wrapped little Post-its around them. So for instance, my grocery budget each month is $250. In the beginning of the month, I put $250 cash folded in that Post-it. And dining out is $100. Put it in there. So I had 5 or 6 categories each month like this. Apparently, when we spend cash, it touches on the pain centers in our brain. So the more you feel that money leaving, the less you're going to want to see it go. So even having to sign for a credit card is better than something like Google Pay, where you just bing, and it's like it never even happened. When you use the cash and you're running out of cash, you see it, it's obvious, so you know to slow down or adapt your spending. And in some situations, that's when I would get a very big bag of organic potatoes at the end of the month as filler food. So for all those extra expenses, I used the cash, and that really made sense. Cash is cool. 8, I made a game of accountability. That's what this whole YouTube channel is about. I knew if I made a YouTube channel and announced to the Pixel world that I was doing this, I needed to be accountable to it. It made me feel responsible for it. And also, because I wanted to do it well and I want to be able to inspire people and to spread hope, I think it made me more motivated to get off me arse and work extra and save extra so that at the end of the month I could have an inspired report to share with you all. So I made a game of accountability. It's number 8. Cruising along to number 9. I paid my debts smallest to largest. Like I mentioned before, I followed the Dave Ramsey baby steps. Now, there is a caveat here because my biggest debt was $16,000. Then I had another one that was, I think, 5 and one that was 8. Does that add up to $25,000 for my student loan debts? Then I had this $11,000 loan to a friend. I did decide to wait to do that till last, and I still have to pay that off. So I took my student loan debts and did smallest to largest. I did not want to do that because I wanted to annihilate that Vermont Student Assistance Corporation debt first, and that was the biggest one. But I sucked it up and did my Navient debts first. And that momentum, I think, really did make a difference. So when I was looking at that $16,000 debt, it didn't loom as big after I had knocked out these earlier debts. 10, I found pleasure workarounds. So I love nice things. I like $500 dresses. I have bought several in my life. I like to go out to dinner at Michelin-starred restaurants in New York City and buy whatever I want and not think about the price. I like luxuries. And I have been so lucky to get to experience many luxuries so far in my life. But I knew that if I was going to knock out this debt as fast as I wanted to, I needed to find pleasure workarounds. Basically, ways that I can have pleasure without having the big cost that I used to have. So I would do things like go to, I love the Ace Hotel. It has a really pretty lobby here in New York City. Go there and get the Meadow tea. Beautiful. Have this beautiful cup of tea, be in this beautiful hotel. The whole thing cost me less than $5. Or I made a point to take better care of my clothing and my jewelry so that instead of thinking I need to buy new things, when I pull out this dress, I brush it off, I thank it, I greet it, and I treat it as though it's new. There is this phrase called hedonic adaptation, which is basically like we will adapt the pleasure we experience to the size of our life at any given moment. So you can expand or shrink your life and you'll still apply the same amount of pleasure to what's going on because the pleasure is coming out of you. It's how you relate to your stuff, not how much stuff you have. So that really relates to this pleasure workaround thing. You just change what things are giving you pleasure. But I still kept it in the same energy field as the stuff I like. Number 11, I stopped magical thinking about fantasy income. Now, I don't know, and I'm really curious if this is a thing that a lot of people do or if it's a thing that's unique to my family. My family has a lot of like big success and big failure in it. So I do have relatives that have gotten a big chunk of money from a big success. And I have too. If you know my history, I have a history as an actor. I was on The Sopranos. So I've had these experiences of like, whoa, big success, boom. I also co-wrote a book called Smitten the Way of the Brilliant Flirt. So I had this experience of, whoa, we just got an advance. This big check came in. That has conditioned me to think about making money to get out of debt in terms of needing a big chunk of money to drop in and me needing to make something kind of magical happen. So I think I've had a bit of a fantasy going about how I need to have something big happen to get out of debt when in reality, I make a decent income. And when I'm strategic and intentional about it, it's enough. It's enough to get me out of debt. So instead of thinking, I got to make this big thing happen, I just have to take one more training or invest in this photo shoot, I just said, no, I'm going to do what I know how to do, and just chip away, teaching yoga, teaching meditation, doing some trauma resolution work, doing some writing work, and blog editing, which is another job. 12. I got humble and stopped feeding my I'm special ideation. So I think that we are all very conditioned to think we should be special. We should portray an image to the world that is glamorous, above it all. I'm not in debt. I'm not sick. I never had a pimple. And I think that is actually a real self-betrayal to think you need to misrepresent yourself or think you need to be somehow better or more special than you are. And the truth about specialness is for you to be special, someone else has to be unspecial. It's built into it. So it's kind of like a sickness, this I'm special thing. So one thing I had to do in this, especially since I've been putting my money online and telling you all about it, is get humble and just do the work. And that sometimes meant getting up much earlier than I want to go sub yoga classes in the city. It meant not having a career always that made me feel special. And special things did happen during this time. I did some photo shoots with Equinox, and I taught at Yale with Chef Elizabeth Faulkner, who's a really cool lady. And I went to London to teach. So there was special, there was some glitter. There was some glitter in there, but mostly there was a lot of hard work. Hard work and then hard work at home in my pajamas, writing emails and planning things. So that really helped, just getting humble. 13, I did what I know how to do to make money. So I just alluded to this. I didn't try and start something new. I did what I know. I taught yoga, meditation, did blog editing work. I just did what I know how to do that makes me money. 14, I also maximized my earnings by also doing what I've been wanting to do. So I have had some ideas about workshops I wanted to teach, this business of yoga success course I wanted to putting on another therapy ball workshop on the books. And so, in addition to doing what I know how to do, I just activated those things I've been wanting to do. And those wound up being lucrative as well. 15, I took my business seriously. So in the yoga world, things can be a little wishy-washy. Like people think when you're a yoga teacher, everything's all good all the time and it's all one. And it can make people sloppy about money and professional things. And I really stopped messing around with that kind of thinking. So if someone contacted me wanting to set up a private, I immediately acted on, okay, let's do a call to see if this is serious. Set it up if you want to do it. There's often people who reach out to me and they want to do a private or they want this or they want that. And I believe they want to do these things. They want yoga at their office. I believe they want to, but they don't actually have the professional follow through to make it happen. So when I sensed something wasn't on, forgot about it. It's just not worth it to me. And I was just really clear and direct about my business. 16, I said yes to unexpected ways to make money. So I think we all have an idea of who we are professionally and we have an idea of where we want to go. And sometimes those ideas can become blinders to what the world wants to do with us that we might love. So during this time, I got contacted by Tune Up Fitness, which is a style of therapeutic yoga and fitness that I teach. And they were looking for a blog editor to add to their blog team. And normally I would have thought, no, that's not what I do. I teach. But I really thought deeply about it and thought about, what I need to make it worth it. And I was like, that could be awesome. And I took that position and I just love it. So I said yes to this. I didn't know it would pan out beautifully, but I'm loving being in this position. And I think it's going to lead to a lot of other cool things that I didn't know about myself. Also, teaching yoga is taxing, being in front of groups of anywhere from like 10 to 50 people sometimes as a yoga teacher. It's a lot of extroversion. It's a lot of energy. So being able to make money in this other way, mixing it up, just being at home with my computer and getting on calls with writers was a really nice way to find variety in how I'm making money. 17, I sold stuff. So Craigslist is awesome. Like I think we should all just collectively agree that Craigslist is awesome. I didn't think I had anything to sell, but then when I looked around and thought about it and also thought about what I'd like to unload, I realized I had all these plant pots that were physically very heavy and these plants that I wasn't taking great care of. And I thought, well, maybe someone wants to buy all my plant pots. And as it turned out, a family in Queens, in Long Island City, did want to buy all my plant pots and my plants and every plant accessory. So I wound up keeping just 3 plants and they came, picked up all this heavy stuff and took it away and gave me $40. Same with a grill. Someone had given me like a barbecue grill, super heavy, never going to use it. I just sold it for $40. Sell stuff. 18, I unloaded the past. So if you have been following along, I did make some videos about stuff I've been getting rid of. A really big part of getting rid of debt, it's so much bigger than just the money thing. It's about getting rid of energies and things from the past that have been weighing you down. When I started looking around my space, I realized so many of my clothes were gifts or hand-me-downs from people. I had things from ex-boyfriends. I had a whole boyfriend box where I had like different ex-boyfriends, things, cards and t-shirts and things all together in there. And during this time, I just decided I don't need to carry this stuff around anymore. And also it might be taxing me more than I know. So I got rid of a lot of things. I unloaded the past, as I say. And it was definitely kind of KonMari style. If I picked up an item and I'm like, oh, this is not bringing me joy, I got rid of it. Or a lot of times it's complicated what these items hold. Like they're sentimental but there's a lot of pain in them. And I was like, I don't need to carry that stuff. So I got rid of really hundreds and hundreds of items. 19, I gave gifts and showed gratitude. One thing that is extremely apparent to me is there is not one thing I have done that hasn't been built on the shoulders of other people's expertise and faith in me and opportunities other people have given me. So during this time when I was getting out of debt and much more conscious about my money, I was also much more conscious about all the people who've made it possible for me to live the life I live. From studio owners at Yoga Soul and Do Yoga and Prema Yoga to Daily Burn. I did a big yoga fundamentals program for them that came out in January, to Yale, where I went and taught, to Equinox Fitness Clubs, who was amazing to me, and all my teachers, Jill Miller and Kate Dine and Ali Kramer, and all the students that come to my classes and the students that hire me for privates. I am so aware of how many gifts people have given me and how I couldn't do anything I do if they didn't give me those opportunities. So during this time, it felt very natural for me to sometimes buy flowers for people or send a thank you note and just show my gratitude, send a gift, show my gratitude. It's a small token. So I did give gifts and show gratitude, and it added up to, several $100s, maybe up to $1,000, and it was totally worth it. 20, I refocused my intention every morning. So as we know, there is a debt epidemic in this country. We also know there are huge mental health and physical health issues in this country. My whole career is actually oriented towards helping people find homeostasis, finding health in their bodies, and also concurrent health in their minds. And I specialize in trauma resolution because if you don't deal with those imprints of things that have happened to you in the past, they keep working through you and working through you, whether you like it or not. So my life is focused around health and well-being in my career. But I have still been, and I'm resilient in my commitment to that, but I have still been very much under the influence of being in a highly consumerist society. So I find there are so many messages that affect me throughout the day about if I bought those shoes, if I bought those cute gold shoes, I would feel so much better about myself and how people would look at me or whatever. So I really had to take the time every morning to refocus my intention. So this meant when I got up, before I checked any electronics, no email, no phone, I went to my special meditation place, had my journals, and wrote out how I was feeling, and then wrote out my goals and intentions. And before I got influenced by the world, set my mind and my focus on what I'm doing. So that created kind of like a firewall against messages throughout the day that made me feel otherwise. Because I set my intention first and was really clear on it, I could see messages coming in, but I could see how they opposed my intention. So I think that's really important. Every morning and throughout the day. 21. You're doing a great job. These are a lot of tips, aren't they? 21. I listened to tons of podcasts and read tons of blog posts. So in addition to focusing my intention, I also made sure I just filled myself with stories of other people's success. I love listening to Dave Ramsey giving live advice on his podcast, his radio show. People call in and all different kinds of problems, even people with problems that didn't seem the same as mine. Often he would give a bit of advice, or they would have self-reflection that touched me and helped support my journey. And also the people's success stories. So the debt-free screams that people call in, those were very fortifying for me. Additionally, I loved listening to the Minimalist podcast and hearing again just this uplifting and this excitement about the idea of minimizing and how can your life be better with less. I think it's something like that, their tagline. And that helped fortify and make me feel like I had support. Also, the Mr. Money Mustache blog is so fun and silly. And I also pop into the forums there to connect to other people who are focused in a way that I've been focused. 22. I ate really good food, at home. So living in New York City here, there are no shortage of amazing restaurants I want to eat at all the time. And just simple things like falafels and tacos. But I wasn't going to reach my goal fast if I did that. So I kept my dining out budget to $100. I kept my grocery budget to $250. And I made a point to get really good groceries. So really fresh, delicious vegetables, hummus. I got cheese. Even though I'm mostly vegan, I let myself get a little more cheese because there's nothing like cheese to get me home to actually eat at home. Good oils, nuts, those kind of things. So I ate well at home. 23. I let people take me out to eat. So I know a lot of people get a lot of pushback when they do their financial freedom journeys and they're hauling ass to get out of debt. I didn't get a ton of pushback, I think because my life is so oriented around self-realization practices that people are used to me doing extreme or unusual things. For instance, I'm sober. I've been sober for almost 2 years. I didn't have a problem per se with, I'm sorry about all my air quotes. It's like that SNL skit where Chris Farley takes off from all his air. I hope I don't take off from all my air quotes. I'll try and tone them down a little. I let people take me out to eat. Just totally lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, people supported me. I'm sober. People are like, that's weird. But they deal with it. So they're used to me doing extreme things for self-realization. I'm really hot right now. It's really hot here in Brooklyn. And part of their support was some people took me out to eat. My friend Trina and Farzad, my friend Alex. I just went out for some great meals and I fully enjoyed them. I ate everything on the table and I was grateful. So I let people take me out to eat. 24. I created a support network. Can you hold on again? I really feel like I need to suck on an ice cube for a second. Oh my gosh. It just got so much hotter here. Hi, Amanda. Okay. This is how when I lived in LA, I didn't have AC in my car. So I just take a Tupperware with a tea towel in it, fill it with ice cubes, and cruise around LA just sucking on ice cubes. Talk about frugal. It worked. Okay. Next up, I created a support network. So, for instance, you all who've been partying with me on YouTube, you've been an amazing support network. I also did a group, a video group with some of my girlfriends there's 7 of us who are all on our debt-free journeys, and we hired a coach and we did that together. So we supported each other. And I involved my family. My dad endured many long calls with me, going over numbers. My sister, who's a really radical rock star corporate lawyer, and she's also on her financial freedom journey on a much bigger scale than me. She's been an amazing support. So I created support and I received it. 25. I took others' encouragement to heart. So this is where I want to thank y'all on YouTube. Some of you Some of you have just taken a moment to write a short little comment. And the fact that you took 30 seconds or 60 seconds out of your life, wherever you were, to tell me you're doing a great job. I believe in you. I'm inspired. You got this. I totally received those messages. I actually want to cry a little bit when I think about it. It's so sweet to me that someone who doesn't know me would tune in and send me a message like that. And so I took it. See, I'm taking it right now. I'm taking it into heart. I took those little messages to heart and I kept them close to me and helped use them to override my deep dysfunction around money and debt that I am totally rewiring inside myself. Okay. 26. I imagined a better future. So apparently it's really hard for people to get out of debt if they just think of it as depriving themselves. So what you need to do is do that Simon Sinek thing, which is define your why. What kind of life am I really excited to live by getting out of debt and building wealth consciously? For me, I think about, I imagine a better future. I think about how being in debt has made me feel indebted to people and systems. It's made me feel like I'm always trying to claw to the surface. The idea of being above the surface, having plenty of wealth I've earned, and being able to make clear and present choices based on my genuine intuition and feelings of truth and authenticity. That's what I think about when I think about great financial freedom. So by imagining a future where I have so much more choice, it's so motivating to make the little compromises to get there. And the cool thing about this too is, of course, I don't have to be out of debt to live that way. And just by imagining it, it's made me more real and honest and authentic in my business now, even though I'm not out of debt yet. 27. I smiled at money and thanked every bit of it that showed up in my experience. So I think it was in maybe Think and Grow Rich or Rich Dad, Poor Dad, one of those books where the author always picks up a penny. He sees a penny on the street and he always picks it up because he doesn't want to say no to money. I have thought about this deeply and realized I do not want to pick up dirty pennies on the New York City street. However, I can look at those pennies and be like, holy cow, what an abundant universe. There is money. There's money just lying on the street. There's money all around me. And it's available to me if I want to just pick it up. So I give those good vibes to money. And also, every time I got a paycheck, every time a private client gave me cash, I made a real point to thank that person if they're there, or if they're not there, and really to thank them again when I go home and file it or put it in the bank, just to look at it and just thank it. Thank it for coming into my experience, thank it for where it came from, and feel my gratitude for that. 28. I ignored wussy, whiny messages. Let's be honest. I am rich. I am so rich. Look at me. I've got a roof over my head. I'm warm. I have a computer. I have a fridge with groceries in it. I live in one of the most exciting cities in the world. I'm fed. I have friends. I am so rich. I am for want of nothing. And so when people have heard about this journey I'm on and the ways that I'm cutting expenses, and I do get messages that are like, oh, you need to be easy on yourself, like you deserve a break, all these kind of messages. I'm like, I don't need to entertain those wussy messages. I don't need a break. Like, yeah, I need to sleep, I need to be mindful of my energy and make sure I'm responsible in my teaching, that I'm rested and I care for the people in my care. But I don't need to do this whole ooh, here they come again. This whole you deserve it thing that our world does, and it does it in particular around treating yourself to unhealthy foods. Oh, you deserve it. Around letting yourself drink alcohol, you deserve it. You've had a long day. And around overspending and being in debt, you deserve it. You work hard. I deserve what is my question? I deserve to be chubby and not fit into the clothes I love to wear. I deserve to put intoxicants in my body that make me feel sad, make me more angry, make me more prone to snap at people. I deserve to be in debt. I deserve to not be financially free. So when I heard these messages, and I know these messages inside myself, I said, nah, 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 nah. That is not the message I'm living by right now. So I ignored wussy, whiny messages. 29, we are almost there. 29, I remembered my 13-year-old inner hustler. So I grew up in northern Vermont, and there was definitely like stress and strain around money in my family. And that always, of course, felt stressful for me and my siblings. But when I was 13, my dad said that I should get a job so that I can make my own money to help. So I got a job in a pumpkin patch, weeding the pumpkins. So for 4 hours a day, for $5 an hour, I would go out and I would weed these pumpkins 5 days a week in the summer. And after that, my friend Kristen got me a job working in an Italian restaurant as a dishwasher. So for 8 hours Friday night, and I think I also worked Wednesdays, I would just get soaked in garbage dishwater, wash, thousands of dishes would come through, clean these disgusting mats on the floor, mop, do all the gross work behind the scenes in the restaurant. And I made about $5.25 an hour then. And eventually I was promoted to prep cook, and I made, I think, like $5.75. And then I was a pizza cook, and it was amazing. Hi, Gary. And I loved making my own money. I could not wait to move out. I actually moved out when I was 17 and moved to California for about half a year before going to college. Me and my friend planned it. We graduated high school early because I loved the idea of independence. And somehow between that time in my life and now, and I think it's partly the influence of that show, Sex and the City, and all these things that promote a really luxurious life, be them TV shows or magazines and stuff, I kind of lost track of that really scrappy part of myself. My mom and I call it getting it done. It's when we used to go out and have to fix a fence on the farm. We would just be like, we got to get it done. Like, it might not be pretty, it might not be fun, but we got to get it done. And there's something about getting it done that is so satisfying. So I reconnected to my scrappy little 13-year-old inner hustler to get it done. And I hope she sticks around. 30. I broke my lease with no penalty and moved to a more affluent neighborhood. So one thing that became apparent was that the place I was living wasn't working for me anymore. And also I'm pretty sensitive because I do a lot of meditating and everything. They call them HSPs in my world, highly sensitive people. I'm pretty sensitive to energies around me. And the neighborhood I was in Prospect Lefferts was more of a family-based community. It's definitely a rapidly gentrifying neighborhood, so there was some friction and tension between ethnicities, and I know that because I would hear comments on the street. And between businesses that were going out of business and being replaced by bigger chains and bigger money coming in. And there was definitely agitation in the air there. And living there, I just made a point to live in gratitude and to really respect the people who had been there before. And it was a really awesome place to live for a while. But as I've gotten dialed into my debt-free journey, I realized that I have ambition and aspirations that would be better served being close to Manhattan, and also being in a part of town that has a little more cooking, a little more going on professionally. So moving to Dumbo, which is right on the edge of Brooklyn by the bridge, there's tons of artist studios, lofts, there's film shoots here all the time, photo shoots. I'm back in this energy of creativity and affluence and ambition, and it's really fun to have set myself in a place where I don't feel that same friction for living there. So I moved, and also I made a point to write a really kind email to my manager. Even though I only gave 10 days notice and broke my lease, they did let me out of my lease and give me my deposit back. So that was amazing, and it's awesome to be here in Dumbo. Okay, next up, 31. I let the world provide. So, as I mentioned before, I have been offered some and gifted some amazing things over these months, from professional opportunities to dinners out. And there have also been times, due to the tightness of my budget, where I'm down to the ropes. For instance, I remember one night, it was the last night in April, and I had very little to eat back home. And I didn't know what I'd have for dinner, but I knew it was going to be very simple. And I came across a guy who was promoting his organic meal delivery service, and he was giving away free dinners. So he gave me this really delicious vegan free dinner that night, and I just saw the opportunity, and I was like, yes, let the world provide. And I would say that there were a lot of other things like that. Someone gave me this big, beautiful loaf of bread as a tip for a private, where I saw, oh, there's actually lots of free things out there if you say yes. So I said yes. 32. This is a big one. This is the most yogic one of all. So in the Yoga Sutra, there is this one sutra thread about santosha. And santosha means contentment. And it's about being content with what you have. And this is a theme that comes up a lot for people who are on their financial freedom journeys. Instead of being focused on what you need to be happy, you look around at all you have and you choose contentment. I mean, even that breath I just took, that was so good, and it was free. It's really fascinating to me how you can just shift your mind and be like, you know what, I'm choosing to be content. I have so much. And the thing that happens when you do this, it's like this. Have you ever gone for a walk in the woods and sat down on a log and looked at the forest in front of you? And at first, what you see is the obvious. Maybe you see an oak tree, a bush, and a vine. And then you sit there longer and you see, oh, there's a little smattering of purple flowers on that other plant back there. And then you see, oh, look, there's two little chipmunks running around after each other. And then you see, oh, wow, look at the peachy pink sky between those leaves. And then you hear, oh my goodness, listen to the leaves rustling in the trees. And then you see how those branches are swaying over there. And little by little, the depths of what's actually happening are revealed. And if you didn't just sit and receive, you wouldn't have been able to see and experience those depths. Instead, you would just say, oh, click, got it, I was here. Practicing contentment lets you not lust after other things, but it starts to reveal, oh, there's so much. There's so much amazing. There's so much beauty. happening right here. You feel me? Okay. 33. I trusted my ability to change my reality. Now, I actually think, I think it's cool if you've hung around for all of these tips throughout this whole thing, but number 2 and number 33 are the most important ones. 2 and 33. 2 was, if you recall, I decided to get out of debt. 33 is I trusted my ability to change my reality. For a certain amount of years of my life, I have had a concept of what I am, what I'm worth, and what I'm capable of. And in this time, I've realized there's a lot of dysfunction in that. I have a lot of very antiquated ideas about how I need a man to step in and deal with financial stuff, how I need something extraordinary to happen to build wealth. And so this was a shift in, I don't need to think those thoughts anymore. I don't need to have those beliefs anymore. I can change my reality. So I built that trust. Combining that with deciding to do this, I do have one bonus one. So that was 33, and I promised you 33. 33 and a half is, and I have a visual for this. I drank Cafe Bustelo. Now, some of the cliches you might think about me as a yoga teacher are probably not true about maybe how you think I think politically or how you think I might think about different things. I think people project a lot of their, assumptions when someone's a yoga teacher onto how they think I think or what I believe in that often aren't true. However, one thing is true. I like my coffee organic, fair trade, and I will normally pay a lot of money for it. So this is a big deal that I bought in this time over these months. I've been drinking Cafe Bustelo. This can, if I don't get it in my neighborhood, because everything's overpriced in my neighborhood, if I get it somewhere else, it's like $4. Instead of for 10 ounces, I was probably paying like $16 for it somewhere else. So even though this might seem like a small thing, I think it's a big symbolic thing. You got to be willing to go cheap for a little while. I'll probably go back to, massaged, organic, stroked, filtered, watered, high-priced coffee beans in the future. I like that whole fair trade thing. I like it when everyone's taken care of. But for now, Cafe Bustelo. So those are my 33 and a half tips. I hope that you have found something useful in here. If you have, I'm actually really curious what has stood out to you that feels like you can use. If something has stood out to you, will you drop a comment below and let me know? If there's any clarification you want on anything, you can also let me know. And further suggestions, I still have $11,000 to pay off. Then I'll be saving a $20,000 abundance fund and putting that in a secret savings account. Then I'll start to invest. So if you have ideas, suggestions, songs I should listen to inspire my journey, please let me know below. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I wish you and your family prosperity and health and contentment. I hope that all your dreams come true, but if they don't, I hope that you find deep meaning and profound self-realization as you move through the opportunities and challenges of your unique life path. Mwah. And hey, Gary, Jay, Amanda, Money Roy, Thanks for stopping by.